These are 7 predators with hunting success rates, kill counts, and body counts that most people never hear about because the animals doing the killing only work after dark. Night changes everything in the wild. Daylight hunters pull back, and a completely different set of rules takes over. What follows are the 7 predators best adapted to those rules, ranked not by size or fame, but by what the actual data says about how lethal they are. Most people rank the leopard near the top of any predator list and stop thinking about it there, assuming the big cat reputation is self-explanatory. The actual picture is more interesting. Leopards hunt alone, which means every kill happens without backup, putting them at an immediate disadvantage against pack or pride hunters who divide the effort, and yet they feed themselves year-round across some of the most competitive ecosystems on Earth, which tells you something about how efficient solitary hunting can be when it's done right. What makes them genuinely dangerous after dark comes down to hardware. Eyes that gather light 7 to 8 times more effectively than a human eye give leopards clear vision in conditions where prey animals are navigating near blind, and hearing that extends to 5 times the range of human hearing lets them track movement before they're close enough to be seen. Studies measuring leopard hunts across different terrain put the success rate at 14% in the Kalahari Desert on the low end, climbing to 38% in northeastern Namibia, with females raising cubs landing around 28%. Those numbers are comparable to lions operating as a group, which is a meaningful comparison for an animal working entirely alone. After a kill, the behavior shifts in a direction most predators don't bother with. Rather than eating on the ground where scavengers can move in and challenge them, leopards carry their prey up into trees, sometimes hauling animals close to their own body weight straight up a vertical trunk. A single large kill feeds a leopard for up to 4 days, meaning hunts don't need to happen every night. The diet itself covers a wide range: impala, baboons, fish, rodents, domestic dogs, and, in at least one documented case from Kruger National Park, a crocodile. Photographer Nayan Kanolkar spent years recording leopards actively hunting on the outskirts of Mumbai, and his explanation for why cities pull them in is direct. Stray dogs and feral pigs are easier to catch than deer in a wildlife reserve. Kanolkar's documentation pushed the conversation about urban leopards past theory and into documented fact, and it illustrates exactly why the leopard ranks where it does on this list. Specialization gets you a stable niche. Adaptability gets you everywhere. Few animals carry a worse reputation than the spotted hyena, and few reputations are more thoroughly built on incomplete information. The scavenger label came from early researchers who watched hyenas during daylight, mostly catching them resting or cleaning up after lions. Radio collar tracking studies changed that picture entirely, because what those researchers never saw was what hyenas do at night. Hunting after dark, a lone hyena closes in on prey successfully about 1 in 3 attempts, a 33% success rate that outpaces lions hunting solo. That number climbs to 74% when large groups work together. But here's the thing, a 7-year study across the Masai Mara found that over 75% of the 272 observed hunts were carried out by lone hyenas, meaning the pack hunter framing only tells part of the story. Hyenas run both strategies and choose between them based on what's available. The physical design behind a hyena hunt deserves attention. Jaws that generate 565 newtons of force at the canine and 985 newtons at the carnassial teeth, which are the shearing teeth further back in the mouth, can process what most other predators leave behind. Stomach acid strong enough to break down bone, tendon, skin, and horn lets a hyena extract nutrition from a carcass that lions, leopards, and wild dogs would walk away from. And after a successful kill, a single animal can put away 9 kilograms in one sitting, with stomach capacity pushing up to 14.5 kilograms under the right conditions. The prey list runs further than most people picture. Wildebeest, zebra, and buffalo are standard targets, and large enough clans have brought down elephant calves and fully grown hippos. A 2020 review of feeding records found that in certain areas, over 80% of observed lion feedings were actually hyena kills that lions moved in on afterward, which is the direct opposite of the scavenger story most people grew up with. One detail that almost never makes it into nature programming: spotted hyenas share Addis Ababa, the capital city of Ethiopia, with its human population, and estimates put the resident hyena count inside city limits at up to 1,000 individuals, moving through the city at night, feeding on scraps and livestock, largely keeping conflict low. That coexistence has been running long enough to be documented, and it fits the pattern of an animal that figured out how to operate in almost any environment, not just the Serengeti. Number 5 on this list is not a mammal, and that matters. The great horned owl ranges from the Arctic treeline in Canada down to the southern tip of South America, making it one of the widest-ranging true owl species on the planet, and every hunt happens at night. Peak activity runs from roughly 8:30 in the evening until midnight, picks back up around 4:30 in the morning, and continues until sunrise. 3 separate features of the wing feathers combine to produce something no mechanical engineer has fully replicated: silent flight. Serrated structures along the leading edge of each wing break apart air turbulence before it can become sound. Soft feathers across the wing surface absorb what remains. A trailing fringe along the back edge finishes the job. Prey animals hear nothing before contact, and for a bird weighing between 2.5 and 5 pounds with a wingspan of 3 to 5 feet, that silence functions as the primary weapon. Talon grip strength measures between 200 and 500 pounds per square inch depending on the source, and Cornell lab data adds a useful detail. Once those talons close, prying them back open requires 28 pounds of force. A 4-pound owl can carry 6 pounds of prey off the ground, meaning it regularly lifts animals heavier than itself into the air. Eyes fixed in the skull and incapable of moving led to a neck that rotates 270 degrees, powered by 14 cervical vertebrae compared to the 7 that humans have. The prey list runs past anything the bird's size would suggest. Skunks are a regular target, which puts the great horned owl in a very short list of predators willing to deal with that outcome. Porcupines get attacked, sometimes with fatal results for the owl. Cold climate individuals store frozen carcasses during winter and later warm them with body heat to thaw the meat before feeding, which is a behavior that most people would not predict from a bird. Crows, for their part, treat the great horned owl as their most dangerous predator and mob any individual they spot during daylight hours. The oldest confirmed bird on record turned up in Ohio and carried an age of at least 28 years. Number 4 is the one most people haven't heard of, and by every metric used to build this list, it outperforms every other cat species alive. Found only in Botswana, Namibia, and South Africa, the black-footed cat weighs between 2 and 5 pounds and stands 8 to 10 inches tall, which makes it the smallest wild cat on the African continent and roughly 200 times lighter than a lion. That size comparison matters because the hunting numbers run in the opposite direction. A 60% hunting success rate, confirmed by the Black-Footed Cat Working Group's field research and backed by a 2024 genomic study published in PNAS, is the highest recorded for any cat species on Earth. Lions land successful kills on roughly 20 to 25% of attempts. The smallest cat in Africa runs the highest success rate on the continent, and that gap is not close. Driving that number is pace. One hunting attempt goes out every 30 to 50 minutes through the night, with 10 to 14 prey animals brought down per night on average, adding up to roughly 3,000 rodents and small birds per year for a single individual. A 1993 field study tracked a male and female over 622 hours of observation and found they caught a vertebrate on average every 50 minutes across that entire period. Metabolism demands fuel at that rate. Up to 20% of body weight per day needs to come in to keep the engine running. 3 hunting modes rotate through the night. Fast hunt covers open ground at speed. Slow hunt threads carefully through cover. Sit hunt means parking at a burrow entrance or termite mound and waiting for something to surface. Up to 10 miles of ground can be covered in a single night while cycling between all 3. In Afrikaans, the animal goes by meerschoeptier, meaning anthill tiger, and a San legend claims it can kill a giraffe by piercing the jugular. Luke Hunter, Chief Conservation Officer at Panthera, put the practical limit plainly. If you are a gazelle or a wildebeest, a black-footed cat poses no threat to you. For everything small enough to qualify as prey, the numbers say otherwise. Largest living reptile on Earth, measuring 6 to 7 meters and exceeding 1,000 kilograms in adult males, the saltwater crocodile ranges across Southeast Asia, Northern Australia, and the Western Pacific. Like every crocodilian, nighttime is when the ambush strategy becomes hardest to defend against, and attacks cluster accordingly. Australian waters see roughly 30 attacks per year, with a fatality rate of around 25%, which sits on the lower end for crocodile species globally, partly because of faster medical response infrastructure. Outside Australia, the data gets harder to assemble, and the true toll is likely higher than recorded numbers reflect. moving through water at speeds up to 18 miles per hour. The species removes the option of simply swimming away, and land-based burst charges cover short distances faster than the body shape implies. One incident from February 1945 became the most repeated crocodile story of the 20th century. Approximately 900 Japanese soldiers were pushed into 16 kilometers of mangrove swamp in what is now Myanmar during the Battle of Ramri Island, and the version of events that spread through books and documentaries claimed saltwater crocodiles killed most of them overnight. Analysis of British military records has since pulled that story apart. Most documented fatalities traced back to Allied gunfire, drowning, disease, and starvation. Crocodile attacks almost certainly happened in that environment, but the mass predation version does not hold up against the available records. A second claim follows the saltwater crocodile into nearly every piece written about it, that the species has remained unchanged for 200 million years. The crocodilian lineage does trace back that far, but the saltwater crocodile as a distinct species is considerably younger than that figure suggests. The living fossil framing produces a better headline than the actual taxonomy supports. Bigger animals exist on this list, but none of them have killed more people than the Nile crocodile, and none of them keep doing it at the same rate. Average adults reach 4 to 4.5 meters and around 410 kilograms, with exceptional individuals documented at 6 meters and over 680 kilograms. Across sub-Saharan Africa, their habitat overlaps directly with communities that depend on those same rivers, lakes, and wetlands to fish, bathe, and collect drinking water, and that overlap produces a body count that no other animal on this list approaches. Pinning down exact numbers is difficult because rural reporting infrastructure across sub-Saharan Africa is inconsistent, but the studies that exist are clear enough. Between 275 and 745 attacks per year, with 63% of those attacks ending in a death. The Crocbite Global Database logged at least 48 confirmed Nile crocodile fatalities in Africa in 2019 alone. A study at Lake Kariba in Zimbabwe found that 50% of documented attacks happened at night or in the early morning hours, and that men aged 26 to 40 who were fishing made up the most common victim profile. In Bawa, a hamlet in Mozambique with a population of around 1,000 people, nearly 50 residents died to crocodile attacks over the span of a single decade. The hunting method is patients operating at a level most predators don't sustain, up to 2 hours of motionless holding position in water, with only eyes, nostrils, and ears above the surface, is documented behavior. Research records Nile crocodiles learning the patterns of animals and people who return to the same water sources regularly and adjusting their positioning accordingly. Contact, when it comes, covers fractions of a second. The bite holds while the death roll disorients and drowns prey before any effective resistance can develop. Population collapse came in the middle of the 20th century from commercial hunting for trophies, skins, and meat, and conservation work brought numbers back up to an estimated 250,000 to 500,000 individuals. That recovery is listed as a success story in conservation literature. For the people living nearest to that habitat, the return of those numbers carries a different weight. Before this ranking closes, one set of numbers deserves to sit next to everything else covered here. A 60% hunting success rate, 10 to 14 kills per night, 3,000 prey animals per year, one attempt every 30 minutes through the night, across up to 10 miles of ground. Those numbers belong to an animal that weighs 5 pounds. Placing the black-footed cat above the Nile crocodile at number 1 depends entirely on how the word deadly gets defined. Measured in human fatalities, the Nile crocodile wins without contest, and nothing else on this list comes within range of its documented kill count against people. Measured by hunting efficiency, consistency, and the rate at which any individual hunt produces a kill, the black-footed cat runs at a level no other cat species on Earth has matched in documented research. Both animals earned their positions at the top of this list through very different means. What put the black-footed cat at number 1 is the completeness of its record. Per body weight, per hunt, per hour of darkness, no predator here outperforms an animal that lives in 3 countries, weighs 5 pounds, and has the highest hunting success rate of any cat alive. Across this list, the size range runs from 2-pound cats to 1,000-kilogram reptiles, from birds flying in complete silence to clan hunters that bring down hippos. What connects all of them is a relationship with darkness that humans never developed. Night is a resource, and each of these animals evolved to take from it fully. The success rate data, the attack records, and the prey lists all arrive at the same place: After dark, the balance of power in the natural world looks nothing like it does during daylight hours. 6 animals, 6 different answers to the same problem. The black-footed cat solved it through efficiency. The Nile crocodile solved it through patience and placement. The great horned owl solved it through silence. The spotted hyena solved it by being adaptable enough to hunt alone or in groups and live in capital cities. The leopard solved it by refusing to specialize. The saltwater crocodile solved it by becoming the largest ambush predator on the planet. Each solution works, each one is built for the dark.